Our movie today starts in 2012, and after the overthrow of Gadhafi, chaos ensued in Libya, and with the government not having control of the country, Libyan cities, especially Benghazi, have become the most dangerous cities in the world. Almost all countries have pulled their embassies out of the country except the United States, which has a diplomatic compound and a top-secret CIA base called the Annex, which is tracking dangerous weapons and intercepting it from getting into militant hands. The CIA base is protected by a team of private military contractors from Global Response Staff, or the GRS. Former US Navy SEAL Jack Silva is a new addition to the GRS. Jack has arrived at the airport in Benghazi. He's greeted by the commander of the GRS and an old friend of his, US Navy SEAL Tyrone Rone Woods. Rone picks up Jack and they drive to the Annex. But while on the road, they're stopped by a group of men with guns. And the leader of the group tells Rone to get out of the car for inspection purposes. But Rone refuses to do so. Then they get into a standoff, but Rone manages to bluff his way out of the situation by telling the leader that there's an American drone watching them and that if anything happens to Jack or Rone, the US government will come and get the group and their families. The leader gets scared and lets Rone and Jack pass through. Once they make it to the Annex, they are scolded by the CIA Chief Station Bob for causing a scene and risking their identity, since the CIA is not supposed to be in Libya and only exists in secret without the Libyan government's knowledge. Jack gets introduced with the other members of the GRS, former US Marines Mark, John, Dave, and former US Army Rangers Chris. Jack is a married man with 2 daughters, and he remembers his wife telling him to stop this job and be with his family because of the dangers associated with this kind of work. In a bit, Jack is called to Bob's office, and Bob explains that there is no threat in Libya and the people love the Americans because they helped them win the revolution. He further explains that if there are more Americans with guns, there's a more likely chance to be a misunderstanding, so GRS should never engage the citizens. As a last reminder, Bob also tells Jack to stay away from CIA agents who are Harvard and Yale graduates. Jack goes on his first mission with Sona, who's going undercover as a lobbyist for ExxonMobil to meet up with a local wealthy family. The rest of the GRS team is watching out for any hostiles around the meeting area. Rone notices suspicious activities and notifies Jack to cut off the meeting. Jack then grabs Sona and Rone and starts driving back to the Annex. Jack sees that they're being tailed by a van, and Rone tells Jack to shoot at the van if it gets close, but the van crashes before it could get to them. 5 weeks later, the GRS team visits Special Mission Compound, a US diplomatic outpost, where US Ambassador Chris Stevens will be staying at. Ambassador Chris will be arriving in Benghazi to maintain diplomatic connections amid the political and social chaos. The Special Mission Compound is less than a mile from the Annex, and the GRS team will be used if something unexpected happens. The GRS team inspect the building and find multiple flaws inside. They warn the DSS, or the Diplomatic Security Service agents, about the risk of low security and the lack of good escape routes from the compound that could lead to an attack from militant forces. The DSS agents explain that they will be getting security support from the February 17th Brigade, which are local militants that are allied with the US government. The next day, Ambassador Chris Stevens arrives at Benghazi and meets with the local leaders. He was supposed to give a private speech, but someone leaked it to the press and dozens of reporters attend the speech. This worries the GRS team that a terrorist attack might happen, but thankfully nothing happens and Chris goes back to the compound. On September 11, 2012 is the anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attack, and the GRS team believes that there could be an attack today. Rone advises Chris to lay low for the day and increase the security of the compound. In the morning, Chris writes in his journal when he notices suspicious men taking pictures of the compound. He notifies Nick, his security detail, and Nick then calls Dave and orders him to find somebody that can speak Arabic to tell the 17th February guards about the situation. Back in the Annex, as Jack was Skyping with his wife and kids, he discovers that his wife is actually pregnant with another kid. Later that night, a group of militants from the Ansar al-Sharia, a militant group allied with Al-Qaeda, group up for an attack on the compound. The DSS guards are smoking hookah when they hear shots getting fired on the streets. The police quickly run away when they see a dozen armed militants, and the group easily manage to reach the compound. And when the militants reach the front gate, the 17th February guards have also completely abandoned their posts. The militants break into the front gate and are making their way to the house. Chris is told to hide in a safe room, and the DSS guards prepare to hold off the attackers. Chris calls the Annex for help. The GRS team quickly gear up and get ready to move, but Bob orders them to hold off and wait for the 17th of February Brigade to take back the compound. Rone argues the ambassador's life is at risk, but again, Bob tells him that the ambassador will be okay in the safe room and that the GRS team is the last resort, not the first response. Bob calls his superiors to get help, but he's informed that there is no military in the country right now. The US Embassy in Tripoli is looking for military assets in the country, and they find that there is a paramilitary asset in the Annex. Former US Navy SEAL Glenn forms a team including 2 Delta forces and flies to Benghazi. The militants have broken into the main house, but they're unable to breach the safe room. They then set the house on fire, hoping to burn out the ambassador. Dark smoke starts entering the room, and the ambassador and his men start choking. The DSS team calls for the GRS again, asking for help. Rone ignores Bob's command, and the GRS team leaves to the compound. Tig takes Ahmal, their interpreter, to help them communicate with the 17th of February team. On their way, they find a few of these 17th February men, and they group with them and go into the compound. After an intense firefight in the compound, the team manages to clean up the attackers, and they move in the burning house to save the ambassador. Jack and Rone enter the house, and they find an out-of-breath Smith. He tells them Chris is still in the back, but they can't find a way to enter through the scorching fire. They try everything they can, but they still couldn't enter, and at this point, it looks like Chris is already dead. While this is going on, the US government is gathering up forces stationed in Italy. They also send a surveillance drone that's giving information to the Annex. More February 17th soldiers arrive at the compound, and the remaining militant members run away. The GRS team meets up with the DSS agents and other survivors and drive back to the Annex. But while driving back, they are ambushed by the militants, and the team manages to escape alive, but lead the militants to the Annex, revealing their hideouts. Rone tells the team to set up on the roof and hold up the incoming attacks. Bob waits for help from the US government, but is informed that help won't be arriving very soon. Bob then orders the Annex team to burn off documents and to find a contact that can get them out of the city safely. At midnight, the GRS team sets up on the roof with heavy guns. Multiple cars start circling the compound, and all the Libyan securities flee the Annex. The GRS team sees police cars gathering outside the compound. Rone asks Bob if there's support sent from the government, but Bob tells him that there isn't really any support sent to them. The GRS turn off the lights to the compound and watch with night vision goggles. The cops talk to the militant group and drive away. Then Boone sees 15 unknown people moving into the parking lot outside the compound. Rone tells the team not to shoot until it's clear that the people have weapons, but then another group of people, mostly teenagers, who are members of the Ansar al-Sharia with weapons, start pushing into the compound. Rone tells the team to draw them in closer since the attackers won't be able to see them. But the attackers throw a bomb in the compound, but they're killed one by one. Only Tig is hit, but the bullet was stopped by his vest. The remaining attackers run back, and the GRS team have successfully defended the first wave. Glenn and his team have arrived at Benghazi airport, and they find themselves in the middle of a fight between the city government officials, and they needed an escort to get them to the Annex safely, and they're now stuck at the airport. US 10th Special Forces are preparing to deploy at Croatia, but it will take them a few hours until they can get to Benghazi. The next wave starts, and the attackers are regrouping and coming with more firepower. The GRS team get into position and wait for the attackers to get close. Oz shoots one of the attackers before he could throw a bomb, and a firefight breaks out. This time, the attackers have an RPG, but the team takes them out before they can use it and destroy everything. After another intense fight, the team wipes out the attackers, killing even the ones retreating. While taking a break, Jack and Rone talk about their families. And this time, if he makes it out alive, he's officially gonna retire. Rone is also on the same page as Jack, and he finally just wants to go back home to his family. Bob finally manages to get good news, but he also got information about Ambassador Chris, and now he's confirmed to be dead. Early in the morning, the Tripoli team and the Libyan escort have reached the Annex. Dorothy tells Rone to hold the compound for a couple more hours, but the third wave of the attack is coming and the attackers now come with artilleries and the Libyan escort run away again. The attackers shoot multiple mortars onto the roof of the building and manage to hit the team. Jack finds Oz, whose arm has been shot off, and they carry him into the building. And Tig also finds Dorothy, but he is dead. Bob starts calling on Rone, but Jack finds him and apparently he's dead too. The remaining GRS members watch a convoy of 50 vehicles coming toward the Annex. Thinking that they're all going to be dead, they finally prepare for a final stand. The convoy reaches the gate and they reveal themselves to be the Libyan Shield Force, a militia that's escorting GRS reinforcements. Everyone is relieved and the Libyan Shield Force escorts them to the airport safely. And at the airport, the CIA staff and a wounded Oz board the plane to Tripoli while the members of the GRS team waits for the next plane. And they wait there with the body of the dead soldiers, including Rone and Chris. Jack calls his wife and tells her he's coming home and promises to never leave again. He also tearfully tells her Rone will not be coming home, and he says goodbye to Rone's body, zips him up in a body bag. In the closing titles, it's revealed that all of the members of the GRS team received contractor intelligence medals in a private ceremony. It's also revealed that all of the GRS members have retired from the force and are now living with their families. 10 days after the attack, 100,000 Libyans mourned the death of Chris and condemned the attack on the Americans. And that is how our movie comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed our recap for today. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys on my next recap. I love you all. Bye.